I stood at the entrance of the glowing celebration, watching her laugh with the man she betrayed me for. Carrying his child, everyone thought I'd disappear quietly, broken, but they had no idea this was the night I'd turn their perfect party into their worst nightmare. Karma didn't just knock. It walked in wearing my suit. If you've ever been betrayed, stay till the end. You're going to love this. I used to think love was unbreakable. Not because I was naive, but because I trusted her with a kind of innocence you can never really get back once it's gone. Selena and I had built something that, from the outside, looked solid. The kind of love people point at and say, that's real. We had our morning rituals, coffee at 7:30 sharp, soft kiss at the door before work, and our habit of stealing the blanket at night. Little things that became the rhythm of my world. It wasn't perfect, but it was ours. Or at least, that's what I believed. I remember the way her laugh used to echo through our apartment. It wasn't just a sound. It was a feeling. Warm. Familiar. The kind of thing that wraps around your heart like a safe blanket. She would come home with tired eyes and lean into me as if I were the calm after every storm. She'd whisper plans about our future. The house by the lake, the baby names she'd scribble on random napkins, the trips we'd take when life got easier, held on to every word like they were promises carved in stone. But somewhere in between the laughter and the plans, I missed the cracks forming beneath us. They were small at first. A new perfume I didn't buy. A late meeting that stretched too often. Her phone once carelessly lying around, now locked like a vault. I told myself it was stress. I told myself love meant trusting, even when it hurt a little. What I didn't realize was that trust can be the most silent weapon. You hand it to someone with your eyes closed, never expecting they'll use it to cut you open. She had a way of making me believe in us even when the silence between us grew louder. I'd hold her hand in bed, and even though she was there, I could feel her slipping away like sand through my fingers. Love has this cruel way of blinding you with memories when the present is already slipping out of your hands. I didn't see the betrayal then. I only felt the weight of love that had already started to rot from underneath. And the saddest part? I was still smiling through it. It happened on an ordinary evening, the kind that doesn't announce disaster, just arrives quietly, like a shadow slipping under the door. Selena was in the kitchen, humming a tune I didn't recognize. I was sitting on the couch, lost in the comfort of familiarity, when her phone buzzed on the counter. That sound? It was so small, so harmless. I almost ignored it. But the second buzz came with a flash of her screen, and I saw the words that cracked the world open. She's almost 2 months now. I can't wait for us. I stared at the message, my heart suddenly pounding so hard it felt like my chest was echoing. The words didn't make sense at first, like a sentence in a language I'd never learned. Then they sank in. 2 months, US. My fingers went cold. I didn't touch the phone. I just sat there, frozen, watching her move around like nothing was wrong. She laughed softly at something she saw on TV, completely unaware that my world had just tilted. My throat burned with questions I didn't ask. Instead, I studied her face as if it held the answer. The curve of her smile, the easy way she leaned against the counter, the softness in her eyes. It was all the same, and yet, it wasn't, for the first time in years. I felt like I was standing in front of a stranger wearing the face of the woman I loved. I wanted to shout. I wanted to slam the phone on the table and demand the truth. But I didn't. Something colder took over me, a silence sharper than any scream. I knew if I confronted her now, she'd lie. And I needed the truth, not her version of it. So I walked past her with a quiet nod, pretending everything was fine, while my chest felt like it was caving in. I didn't sleep that night. I just lay there, listening to her breathe beside me, wondering how many of those breaths had been shared with someone else. The betrayal wasn't loud. It was quiet. And that quiet hurt more than any explosion ever could. Once you've seen the crack, you can't unsee it. Even the smallest shifts feel louder. Every late-night work call, every distracted smile, every whisper behind closed doors, they all started to sound like confessions she hadn't spoken yet. I became quiet, Not because I didn't care, but because I started listening, really listening. And silence has a way of revealing everything people try to hide. I told myself maybe I was wrong. Maybe I was reading too much into nothing. But when love begins to rot, you can smell the truth even if no one says a word. One Friday night, she said she had another meeting. I smiled, kissed her forehead, and told her to drive safe. But the second the door closed, I followed. It wasn't rage that drove me. It was something colder. A stillness. The kind that sits in your bones when your heart already knows what your mind is about to see. I kept my distance. I watched her car disappear into the city lights, and I followed like a ghost. No music, no sound, just the hum of the engine and the weight of 1,000 questions pressing on my chest. She parked in front of a rooftop bar. She walked in like it wasn't her first time, and then he appeared. Darius, a name I'd only heard once in passing, a coworker. She smiled when she saw him. Not the polite smile she'd give strangers. This was the smile she used to give me, the one that felt like home. I watched him put his hand on her waist, and she didn't pull away. She leaned in. She laughed. She looked alive. And for the first time, I realized she'd already left me long before she told me. I didn't go inside. I didn't scream or throw anything. I just stood across the street, my hands buried deep in my pockets, feeling a quiet kind of pain that didn't need noise to be real. My heart didn't shatter in a single moment. It eroded slowly, like waves eating at a cliff. That night, something inside me changed. I stopped hoping for explanations. I stopped trying to fix what was already gone. Betrayal had a face now, and it was smiling at someone else. It's strange how the loudest heartbreak doesn't come with shouting. It comes with a soft voice and a smile that lies right to your face. 2 weeks after I saw her with him, she came home early. Her steps were light, like she was carrying a secret that made her glow. I was sitting at the dining table, half pretending to read something on my laptop. She stood in front of me, hands nervously tangled together, and said my name softly, Aaron. Can we talk? I looked up, already knowing something was coming. But I wasn't prepared for the way she said it. I'm pregnant. 2 words. Just 2. But they hit me like a silent explosion in my chest. For a second, everything inside me stopped, like the air had been pulled out of the room. Her eyes filled with tears, and she laughed nervously, as if waiting for me to jump in her arms and say all the right things. And I did what I'd always done. I played the part she expected. I forced a smile. I reached out. I whispered, "That's amazing." But inside, something was collapsing. She leaned against me, and I held her carefully. Not like a man holding the woman he loves, but like someone holding a glass they already know is broken. My heart wanted to believe her. My mind already knew better. The timing was wrong. I had seen the messages. The nights she disappeared, the dates didn't match the life she was trying to paint. That night, when she slept soundly beside me, I stared at the ceiling in the dark. The truth sat heavy in my chest like a storm waiting to break. I didn't need to shout. I didn't need to accuse. All I needed was silence and time. And time, I've learned, tells the truth better than any confrontation ever could. A few days later, I saw the report she had carelessly tucked away. The dates were clear. The baby wasn't mine. That moment wasn't anger. It wasn't even shock. It was emptiness. A quiet, cold emptiness that told me love was gone and war had just begun. There's a kind of silence that doesn't bring peace. It brings distance. After that night, Selena and I moved through the same house like 2 ghosts haunting a memory. We spoke less, smiled less, and touched almost never. Her laughter, once so easy, now came wrapped in guilt. I could feel her trying to pretend, trying to hold up the walls of a story that was already falling apart. But pretending only works until the silence between 2 people starts to sound louder than their words. One morning, she left a stack of papers on the table. I didn't need to ask what they were. Divorce papers. Clean, cold, and final. She didn't cry. She didn't beg. She just said softly, "Maybe it's better this way, Aaron. We both deserve peace." Peace. The word stung, because she was the reason my peace had died. But I nodded. I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction of seeing me broken. I picked up a pen, looked her straight in the eyes, and signed every page without a single question. Each signature felt like a blade carving out what was left of me. She tried to sound gentle. I hope one day you'll understand. I almost laughed. Understand what? How betrayal tastes when it's disguised as kindness. How lies can wear the face of love. Everyone around us believed she was the one hurt. She told her friends I had grown distant, that I wasn't there anymore, and they believed her. People always believe the one who cries first. I didn't defend myself. I didn't need to, because truth, like fire, burns in silence before it shows its light. After she left, I stood alone in that apartment, every corner echoing her voice. The smell of her perfume lingered on the couch, the faint ring mark from her coffee mug still on the table. It hurt, yes, but somewhere deep inside that pain, something else started to form. Something colder, sharper. It wasn't anger. It was resolve. I had given her love, trust, forgiveness, and she had turned all three into weapons against me. So, I decided I'd give her one thing she never saw coming. Karma wrapped in calm, wearing my silence like armor. People think revenge is loud, explosive, a storm that tears through everything. But real revenge is quiet. It starts like a breath, steady, measured, patient. After she left, my nights were filled with silence. But it wasn't the kind that hurts anymore. It was the kind that sharpens. I stopped asking why she did it. I stopped looking for closure in a woman who had already chosen someone else. Instead, I focused on one thing, making sure she felt the weight of everything she'd broken. A few weeks later, I heard through a friend that Selena and Darius were planning a big new beginning party. Their perfect celebration, a night to tell the world that their love story had triumphed. That's what betrayal does. It dresses itself in gold and expects applause. They even had the nerve to send me an invitation. I looked at the card for a long time, and a small, cold smile curved on my lips. If they wanted me there, I'd give them a night they would never forget. I spent the following days quietly collecting everything they thought I'd buried. The messages, the paternity reports, the photos, the timeline. Piece by piece, I built the story they had tried to hide. Not with rage, but with precision. I wanted her to feel it not as a punch, but as a mirror, a reflection too clear to run from. I hired someone to film the party. Not because I needed a memory, but because I wanted the truth to have a spotlight. I made sure her parents would be there. Darius's boss. Mutual friends. Every person who had once believed in our love story. If betrayal was going to take the stage, I was going to pull the curtain wide open. There's a power in patience. She thought my silence meant weakness. She mistook my calm for surrender. But what she didn't understand is some storms don't make noise before they strike. They build quietly, under clear skies, and mine was almost ready. I didn't need to ruin her life. She had already done that. All I needed to do was show the world what she really was. I walked into that grand hall like I was walking straight into my own storm. Every eye turned the moment I entered, but all I saw was her. Serena, standing there in a sparkling silver gown, glowing like the queen of a kingdom built on lies. And right beside her was him. The man she thought would give her everything I couldn't. My heart was beating so loud, could swear the chandeliers were shaking with it. This wasn't just a party. This was the stage where karma was going to perform, and I was the opening act. They didn't expect me to show up. I could tell by the way Serena froze mid-laugh, her glass still in her hand. That fake joy on her face cracked the moment our eyes met. She used to say, no one looked at her like I did. Now she looked like she wanted to disappear. I walked closer, slow, steady, letting the silence grow heavy. People whispered, cameras clicked, music faded into a trembling hush. Aaron, she finally said, like my name burned on her tongue. I didn't answer. I just smiled, the kind of smile that hides fire behind ice. I raised my glass and said loud enough for everyone to hear, congratulations. On the baby. Gasps sliced through the room. The man beside her stiffened. Her fingers twitched. I could feel every ounce of her fear ripple through the crowd. You thought I didn't know? I said softly, but it echoed like thunder. I knew everything. I just waited for the perfect moment to let the truth breathe. The whispers turned into waves. Someone gasped. Someone laughed nervously. Karma had finally entered the room, not wearing a mask, not hiding in the shadows. It stood right between us. And then I added, calm but sharp as a blade, you burned everything we built for a lie. Now watch that lie collapse in front of everyone you tried to impress. The man beside her stepped back. Her carefully crafted world cracked like glass, and I didn't have to lift a hand. Karma was already doing its work. The moment the whispers turned into judgmental stares, I didn't have to say anything else. The truth had already spread like wildfire, fast, unstoppable, and merciless. Serena's smile crumbled the way a fragile statue collapses when its foundation cracks. Her silver gown didn't shine anymore. It just reflected the weight of every lie she'd told. I stood there, still and calm. For so long, I had imagined this moment, rehearsed what I'd say, how I'd confront her. But reality was different. I didn't need a speech. Karma had already spoken for me. The man beside her stepped back slowly, like a coward, realizing the ground beneath him wasn't solid anymore. His eyes darted between Serena and me, panic written all over his face. He thought he was stepping into a beautiful love story. He was just walking into the storm she created. Serena finally whispered, "Aaron, please." Her voice cracked like glass. Once upon a time, those same words could have made me stay. Tonight, they meant nothing. I gave you everything, I said softly, not to humiliate her, but to release my own pain. I believed in us when no one else did. And you turned love into a game. Our tears rolled down silently, but they didn't move me anymore. You can't destroy someone and expect their heart to catch your fall. I raised my head, breathed in deeply, and felt the weight that had been suffocating me finally lift. People around us didn't say much. They didn't have to. The silence was enough to bury her fake fairy tale. The same crowd she wanted to impress now looked at her with pity and, worse, disgust. I placed my glass on the nearest table, straightened my jacket, and walked away. Not in anger, not in pain, in power, because leaving with dignity is the loudest revenge. Behind me, I could hear her sobbing, begging, but the sound grew smaller with every step I took. That night, I didn't just expose her. I freed myself. Karma didn't come with fire. It came with silence, truth, and the strength to walk away. And as I stepped outside into the cold night air, I smiled. Not because I'd won, but because I'd finally let go